ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't think my talk is anything to do with my life history really, other than to say I retired from my job after 42 years, I think it was, in 2003. Then I joined Rotary in 2007, so that's 13 years. So I couldn't fit in Rotary until I'd been retired, but I was one of those people who were considered surplus, you know, age 57. A few years later they approached and said, can you come back? We haven't got any people who know anything. You know? So 2007, 13 years membership, 7 years in a row as the treasurer of that Rotary Club, which was a bit illegal or, you know, breaks the rules. But along the way, about 10 years ago, I discovered Wheelchairs for Kids, which is why I'm in this club now, because I got an interest in supporting Wheelchairs for Kids from the East Coast perspective. They've got the workshop in Perth, but so the workshop over there has over 200 volunteers, and there's not a room to have a second workshop, we don't believe, but in Melbourne there's plenty of money, so my job over here is raising money for Wheelchairs for Kids, and probably also for the Passport Club now. So this morning I just had a quick look at our stats. So we've been going 20 years. It's a project of the Rotary Club of Scarborough. I'm talking about Wheelchairs for Kids here. Rotary Club of Scarborough, it's a single club project. They've stuck with it for 20 years. They put in 50 grand a year to keep it ticking over. Because it's a bit like this place, it's a big workshop that they don't own, so they pay rent, power, you know, forklifts, overheads, and they do all that from donated funds. And at this point in time, the latest tally is 45,844 wheelchairs sent overseas. They all go overseas. That's because it's too hard to get approval of the authorities in Australia. That's part of the reason. It's too hard to get insurance of risks and everything about somebody being injured in a wheelchair. So last year, 3,194 in the year, and I got the totals out for I just had a quick glance at the totals for the clubs, the countries that are involved with this, the members of this club. So in the tally there's to Uganda, 1,811, Kenya, 1,920, Ghana, 210, and that was through, the 210 was largely, 50 of those were Billy Williams, who hosted was this key speaker at the longest African dinner. You know, that he organised that with the authorities in Ghana, with the Trade Commissioner there. Timor, 1,156, Cambodia, 954, but we're coming up fast because I'm the reason why we've got a couple of hundred of those to Cambodia. We're now establishing a member of this club in Siem Reap, Jessica Whitney, with Safe Haven Medical Outreach as the depot for Cambodia that will distribute wheelchairs for anyone that needs our wheelchair, for anyone in Cambodia that needs them. Vietnam is the big one though, 7,724, but that's historical. That's because the Red Cross in Vietnam we used as a partner for quite a few years, and we trusted them with 1,000 of the wheelchairs a year, sort of. I think we then weren't that confident of it after a while, because after a few years they went asking, where are all those wheelchairs, and Red Cross came in Vietnam couldn't tell us where they were. They sort of, who knows where they are, so it sort of went off. So nowadays our key partner in Wheelchairs for Kids, like 3,200 last year, but half of those have gone to the African countries with World Vision Australia, with a collaboration we have with them. They pay the freight. So we need $200 to pay for each wheelchair, or that's for the materials for each wheelchair. And I've got a prop, because this morning I was given $200 by Mo for another wheelchair. So So that tax deductible. You get your tax deductible receipt. Now, my main fun I have is going to. I raise money into schools, and I created this event. Is it going to play? So we go to.
Well, I can play it, but do you want the sound?
Yeah, just play it. Cool. So that's Ollie, our
Sorry, it's just, there's not much sound.
No, we're not getting set, but the sound is not much. So that's the workshop over there. It's equipped with all sorts of engineering gear, CNC machines and that, which are donated by industrial companies in Perth or elsewhere. So that's the frames. They all come from China. It's the secret as to why our wheelchair's so cheap, because we buy these frames. They do that frame for $19, delivered to, and in Australia you couldn't paint it for $19. This is Myanmar. This is Global Village. Going a little. You see something like that when you're over there. So they're putting this wheelchair together for this little kid. That's their home. He doesn't know what's going on, I think, here, but after a while he gets a message. So, Now this is me at Tintern just a year ago, and we've got a great friendship with Tintern. We go there every second year. The Tintern has 5 principals. It's a top-notch school, the best school, I say. But we deal with the principal of the junior boys school, who's an inspirational guy, putting all the kids on track. So this is me in my ute coming in with the trailer I've got at home, which you get the message. The kids come and help me unload it. It's a great billboard poster for Rotary. 2 layers, 20 wheelchairs in there. The kids, the students, get them out, and they've been pre-positioned by this stage to have sponsorship to ride our wheelchairs, and it become primary school kids, the one to work with, they become competitive, one grade against another or one kid against another, and so this one kid came later. I go back later to collect the cheque, because they have a bit of time to get the money in. They all get a yellow hat. I brought my yellow hat to wear, but anyway. This day was 36 degrees, so we had to divert. Instead of being out in the oval, we went under the shade of trees and sprinklers. Yeah, so they had a lot of fun doing this. It spreads the word of Rotary in a brilliant way, I think, because the parents, the mums come along and grandparents. And each time we go there, they try to outdo the prior time, and they did this year. Well, that's the last one. $7,500 in half a day. I'm going home at lunchtime, and I've got a few schools that can do that. But it's not just about money; it's about giving the kids a message that they're helping other kids and families overseas. So small schools, might get $1,000. That's still 5 wheelchairs. So. But so now anyone here, I'll go to Kyneston. Any schools you've got?
St Leonard's now they're using.
I've never cracked it for Brighton. I've been there your way visiting the schools, but the schools are all so busy.
Yeah, you've got to put it in for next year, for St Leonard's.
Yeah, St Leonard's there.
Well,
I met at your dinner that night, and they're working on it for me.
Yeah.
So it's about finished, and I think, so this is our message with the wheelchair, that it helps little kids who wouldn't get help otherwise. I could have brought a wheelchair, but you might have seen it already.
Yeah.
It's got about 60 adjustments. It does last more than 10 years. It's very solidly made. And the kid can go to about age 5 and still be in the same wheelchair at 15. Oh, do you want me back?
I'm good.
So maybe I'll leave it at that. My message is to help with, in being in the Passport Club, is to help get the wheelchairs around the world. And David, are the 50s still down the back?
Yes.
Right at the end of the
Yeah, they're going to
workshop.
Safe Haven.
Yeah, they're going to Safe Haven as the
Maybe.
maybe.
Right.
Well, haven't we got the money after all?
That might be going to Solomon's first bit.
Oh,
Solomon's getting
No,
like
no,
very
no,
soon.
no, no,
No,
they're
there's
going
a
to Safe
second.
Haven.
There's another set for Solomon's.
Yeah, no, it depends if they give you a ton.
Oh, okay. Oh, Solomon's is moving fast.
Solomon's is next week.
But I think you should look at it. The 50 cartons down there is about 50 grand because they're brand new. In contrast to everything else, almost in here, everything else is pre-used, pre-loved, but the wheelchairs are brand new. They represent $200 donation each one, but to that you've got to add the labour and the overheads of the workshop. I reckon they're more like $1,000. And if you wanted to buy one, a similar wheelchair in Melbourne, think $4 grand, you know, 4 or 5 grand when it's seen as an orthopaedic, not an LD wheelchair, but an orthopaedic adjustable wheelchair to suit a disabled kid. The price is totally different. So,
And are there people on the
questions?
ground, sorry,
Go.
people on the ground to deal with maintenance
Over
and
in
you know,
country.
fitting, as
Yeah.
kids grow and
I
how
could,
that.
there's a
I'm
lot
sure
to
we
it.
can-
Yeah, we only send the wheelchairs where there's we call them a clinician. You know, they're either occupational therapist or a physiotherapist or something. And well, Jessica Whitney's a good example of that. She runs a disability outreach, so she is knowledgeable and experienced. It's like that in all the country, everywhere we send them. Other than, but what about Fiji? No, yeah, there's somebody qualified there. It's like Days for Girls, actually. At the other end, there's got to be somebody to explain it properly.
Is there still somebody in Uganda, Russell?
Yeah, we got that one, Uganda. Yeah, that's the one Elizabeth's got for. We've got disability centres that we send to via World Vision into Uganda. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And final thing is that wherever we send wheelchairs is the same country that needs Days for Girls. So typically the shipping container has the two together.
Russell, I've got an orphanage in Kathmandu, which is a government one,
Yeah.
and they've got they take all the premies from the hospital,
Oh, that's
but-
babies.
yeah. And there's like 20 or 30 of those. But now the Japanese Rotary Club is opening up for the disabled babies, and they're having
Right.
30 of them there. So I would imagine in 2 or 3 years, when these 30 babies are all getting to the next point, there's going to be a big need in that particular institution.
Yeah, we're particularly good in Nepal, in Kathmandu. There's a young girl there, it's only about 20 years old, and she got a shipment just a year ago and got them distributed. So whether she's still there, but there's a lot of these people in this field spend a year in one country and then they're
She's
back out.
left.
Yeah, they're back out. And
I had to
something
talk to her
else.
about it. But
All right.
keep
Well,
working, we need you.